So Q4 is upon us. Q3 over and we actually finished in a green month. We're going to simulate what could happen over the course of Q4, but is this time different? What if this is just all a little bit too much, too obvious, and we could be going into a horrible Q4 into the election and it's all curtains? Well, let's look at some of the options. So first things first, right? This was a tweet I did on the 31st of August just for a little bit of banter, right? What if we bounce in September, then in October we go down? I kind of hope it isn't true though. And yes, we got to talk about the past data and information, but market sentiment is always key. Right now, things are looking positive so far, but the reality is here, there's a lot of charts that I need to go through, so don't go anywhere. Stay to the end because I'm going to show you some things that are slowly progressing. You've seen them mentioned on my channel before, but things are looking really quite good at the moment, right? But let's get into what is actually happening here. So in terms of real life data, Q3 for Ethereum was pretty awful. Q4 and Q3 and all that kind of stuff, this is like the first time in a long time we've actually, yeah, as you can see here, the last bull market. Now, no, it's nothing amazing. But where it really gets interesting is obviously here. Let's be honest. A 7.29% increase is really nice. Now, I don't want to get you too excited, but we are going to simulate what an average of a 21% increase over the course of October could be, and also in November and also December. These are the averages, by the way, right? Just saying. It's always pretty speculative and pretty good. But what could happen overall? Now, I do not want to do an 84% increase or a median of 31% increase in Bitcoin because that might make you wet yourself. So it give you an idea of why people are bullish, right? But this is why I'm going back to, well, what if actually it doesn't happen? We need to talk about all seasons, and I will come on to the technical side of this soon. But we're now at 49. Things are starting to slowly ramp up, and we're starting to see more and more orange going past Bitcoin, and BNB is almost about to do it as well again. Now, a couple of my holdings are above here, which is nice to see. I'm happy. Not many though, I'll be honest. But reality is though, things are looking a bit better than what they were not too long ago. So be mindful of that. Now, for me, this metric is laggy, but ultimately you need to buy low, sell high, certainly with certain things. And often people forget, and we know about this on our channel, that people forget about the Bitcoin pair. Some of them are doing fantastic. But yeah, if you want to know more about Bitcoin dominance and pairs and how to make money in Bitcoin, not so much in USD, subscribe. So this is a bit of news time. We're looking at the weirdest bull market run of ever, basically, in terms of obvious sense. Now, it kind of makes sense. So Bitcoin's consolidation. Yes, it is consolidating for a long time. If you think about it here, Bitcoin has been rolling between 53,000 and 74,000 since March. And we have broken its all-time high twice. And one of them was before halving, which doesn't really happen very often, right? We've got to also look at what predictions we could be looking at. 290,000, would you take it? Well, we're going to simulate that in a bit with average returns. Now, I know it's very much wishy-washy based off past data, but ultimately it gives you a bit of a flavour. And I think personally, in my opinion, we've been spoiled a little bit because I think the Bitcoin price is a lot higher than what we would have expected given a normal cycle, if that makes sense, if you look at the past. But the reality is here, obviously the altcoin side of it, people are starting to get slowly interested and excited. And obviously as well, China decided to put 500 billion in the economic stimulus package, which has somewhat propped the markets. But yesterday, Japan had a bit of a problem. Japan's prime minister decided to just, you know, the market went down 5% in terms of the yen and the whole of that side of it. That kind of led to us having a bit of a whimper yesterday, which, okay, fair enough, but we have kind of recovered that bounce a little bit today. So let me know in the comments, do you think this is a strange bull market? And I think it has been, right? Let's just forget about your opinion. Let's talk about mine. When we talk about the last cycle, which was due to COVID and stuff like that, it kind of did run with the 4-year cycle vein. The one before that in 2017 was crazy with ICO booms. But this one has been very, very hard to look at, and it's been very ugly as well. There's a lot more altcoin downness as well in terms of the dominant side of it, so that has really made a struggle. And we've got to look at the fact here of well, narratives, right? The leading narrative thus far is meme coins. Last 7 days, you know, here again, the last month to date, 35% narrative. You got AI, real world assets, you got decentralized exchanges, liquid staking derivatives, and centralized exchanges. And obviously, you got ordinals and stuff, and bits of bobs, and obviously the Bitcoin ecosystem, which is what I talked about yesterday. Make sure you check out that video if you're interested in runes. But the reality is here, where do we go from here? Because some of the stuff here, that makes sense. Some of these, like Frantech, yeah, it's a Ponzi scheme. But where do the meme coins go? Where does like the AI go, for example, right? And that's the narrative so far. But for me, I think a couple of the ones that are, in my opinion, really lagging right now is obviously the Bitcoin ecosystem and stuff like that, and the narrative of Bitcoin. I think that will grow. You all said in my video, right? DeFi. Usually, when the money returns to the market, people want to make passive income, and then DeFi gets a good thing. You've also got wallets, which again, probably an afterthought. Then you've got the likes of derivatives, probably an afterthought. And for me, some of these are like really interesting. But GameFi for me is impressed versus what you normally expect. But there's a lot of new coins coming out. So we'll see where we go. But obviously at the minute, we've obviously got, in terms of current new trending, we've got oracles, we've got AI, and we've got L2s. So things are getting very, very interesting to see where we go from here. Now, in terms of economic policy, we have slow rate cuts. Now, if that is the case, that would, in terms of a signal, potentially of a boost in cryptocurrency market optimism. Now, this is obviously based off the speech yesterday in terms of what he was saying. He hasn't given much away, though, let's be honest here. And he stated here, we're not on a preset path. Good. We need to be dynamic with this. We can't just be like, yeah, we're going to do this. And then the market gives us some ugly data. And then we're like, ah, shit, we're bugging it up, right? So data driven, yes, good. Employment and price stability. So obviously if the unemployment data, which comes out on Friday, by the way, remains okay and the price is stable, cool, we'll probably remain on the same path as kind of predicted. If, however, that goes bang and the unemployment data goes to the moon, it will create some instability in the price and a bit of fear and whatever. And that may lead them to do maybe less or more cuts, depending on what the outcome is, obviously. So obviously that is going to be huge. But realistically, in the nutshell is, right, if you're fucking lost here, the longer term this is, we're going to have lower interest rate, which would over time stimulate growth in the market by borrowing. Basically, all your interest and stuff will lower, and then that will increase more people to go, your loans look interesting, credit card looks interesting. And obviously it comes in the kind of ballpark of potential recessions because people go a bit crazy and things go a little bit wrong. We've got to be mindful of that, right? So when we talk about obviously that, we could talk about more liquidity coming into the market when there's obviously that opportunity, which then leads to potential bullish market conditions eventually. It's not a quick trigger tomorrow. It becomes a long drawn out process. And if you look at previous cycles, with liquidity cycles, it's always interest rate cuts or hikes at some point within them. Now, in terms of new assets coming to the fore, EigenLayer has finally been released. It's got a trade restriction on it and it's just been lifted essentially. And the total valuation currently on this article is 7.1 billion. I honestly, not a clue what's happening with EigenLayer. I've not really looked too much into it. Let it just cook and let it do its thing for now. The big thing with this is, and if we look at the research side, let's just go and have a look at the research. The big problem we have is dilution. Obviously, we've got stake drops and stuff. That total circulating supply at launch would be roughly 11.94, 12%. So over time, yes, there'll be kind of that net loss of how many tokens, and that what might create like a really high token value, and people might get very excited very, very quickly. But ultimately, a lot of those tokens need to come out, therefore leading to a really interesting reaction. So keep your eye on it. But yeah. See how it goes. Another thing we need to talk about is what is happening here with FTX. So FTX reorganization plan gained support from over 94% of .com voter credits. Basically, in a nutshell, it's all going to happen in October. So Monday's filing showed that 94.48% of creditors in the .com customer entitlement claims basically are in favor of the reorganization plan. So this would indicate that, where is it? There it is. So that under the bankruptcy plan, about 98% of creditors are set to receive at least 118% of their claim value in cash. So this is all going to come out. So this is going to be very, very interesting to see where it goes. And the reorganization plan confirms to be hearing on October 7th. Basically, money's going to come out of the FCX debacle with all the shite that happened. The people that lost a lot of money are going to get some money back, probably more than they expect realistically, but it will be in cash, not in Bitcoin. Remember the time scale here, boys and girls. This was when Bitcoin was a lot lower in price versus today, so they're not going to get 1-to-1 of their Bitcoin, obviously, but they are going to receive cash, and it's quite a lot of money. If you think logically, if you are interested in crypto and you probably are still an investor in crypto and you've lost some money, you're going to get some money back. Cool, sweet. It's probably going to go back into crypto, most likely. Not all of it, obviously, but I think quite a lot of it will, because probably most people have given up with it. But a couple of years later, here we are. Interesting, isn't it? Now, other things to talk about bullish sentiment and why Q3 and Q4 are very, very interesting moving forward. Q3, in my opinion, was okay. And as I've said at the start of this video, we may well be going into some really interesting times, but it may not repeat. I know. So be mindful of that. But what has happened is since rate cuts, right, BlackRock have found the green button on their desk again, which is really interesting. When you look back and you think, well, BlackRock did nothing, or hardly anything from end of August to start of September, like to the middle of September, sorry. And then they started finding, but look at the amount of inflows on the 27th of September, absolutely monstrous, and on the 26th of September. So that is also interesting. However, this as well is the US ETF inflows, 8 consecutive days. And there's some really big numbers here. And that's where it gets very, very interesting to look at the net inflow. Money is going in. If this is totally lost on you, by the way, technical analysis, check out the link below to Learning Crypto. There's all kinds of free content on there. There's all kinds of stuff you can get into and learn about cryptocurrency technical analysis. Also, if you want my opinion on what I'm doing, check out Patreon. They're both very, very different. This is interesting. Now, for me, in my honest opinion, this is making me feel a little bit better. We could be, oh God, I don't know whether to say this or not, for the first time in a very, very long time, maybe, I know, speculation, probability and all that factors, breaking out to the upside potentially. Now we need a break, in my opinion, above these levels, up from this point, and then that might create us an alt season going into Q3, which is always bullish, going into an election, stimulus checks for China, and FTX creditors getting their money back. But what if it's different? What if we reject and we go below this point? That's the other factor. In my opinion, there's more bullish than bearish right now, which is really good, and we need to hold on to that. Most people forget, and I know we often talk waffle and bollocks on this channel, and I give you my point of view. Most of the market is preconceived beliefs and ideas, and those ideas will either get you totally destroyed or will make you very rich. It's called backing yourself, essentially, right? And in terms of what I look at the market, this has told us for a very long time not to be in an altcoin since basically 2022, December 2022, if you're going to look at the crossover, right? There's only been a couple of little mini crossovers in between these times, and this is where we've actually made some money in these little upticks, right? But right now we're consolidating all the way down here. We're all the way fucking down here. And some of these little upticks at the start of the year were only a couple of little moves when you zoom out. What if we do shoot? Well, that's interesting. So what is going to happen here potentially is a change of character where the downtrend will come to an end and we break structure for the first time in a very long time properly, as in higher time frame structure, and we could be starting to see a reversal sign going up towards some of these bigger key structure points, which is huge. So in terms of altcoins, Total 3/BTC, and when I did a video on this not too long ago, a lot of people couldn't get onto this chart, but all you need to do is just put in Total 3/BTC and just press enter. It just gives you it. So don't worry if you can't get it. You should be able to get it. Again, likewise with Total, the Total 2. This is including Ethereum as well. This is a level to break, in my opinion. If we break that level, we're going to start making, potential headway. And we're slowly trying to capture these EMAs, which is really, really fucking positive. The problem is, let's just not talk about the problem. So at the start of the video, we talked about, obviously, what the averages were in terms of potential months going into Q4. Now, again, let's go back in time a little bit. When we talk about different kind of returns, and basically we're looking at an average of 56% on average over the course of a quarter. If you're going to look at this in different kind of months, you can see it over here as well. Now, if we look at the average, yes, cool, whatever. But ultimately, people are going to start getting really, really excited. And obviously, that's the average mean as well. So if we're going to look at a potential 56% gain, which I know to some people, you're going to be like, why are we doing this? But I just want to kind of draw upon a little bit of realism here to just try and give you an idea of what could happen. And we're looking at roughly, is it 56%? I think it was. Now, obviously, this is all based off the last year, and obviously, prior results do not indicate future performance, not financial advice. But in terms of the bullish scenario here, we could be looking at $100,000 Bitcoin. Let that sink in a little bit. Now, is this possible? In my opinion, yeah, it's over 3 months on an average, but I don't like going into months thinking like this with preconceived bias thoughts. Now, I want to make that clear. As much as we're talking more about the bullish structure of past data, that Q3 is often shit and Q4 is often amazing, what if it's not? What happens here? Now, this is where we've got to talk about risk management. There is going to be people coming back to this market. There's going to be, at some point, liquidity return to the market, and people will over-risk and get destroyed. It always happens. So, as a bit of advice for people, follow the trend and try and look at what is happening with the trend and do not over-risk, because realistically, this should sound obvious to some people, you should already be in the market now anyways. You should have already been in months ago when we were at market lows and stuff like that, where there was actual genuine opportunities. But now we're looking at points of breakouts, and whether they happen or not is interesting, but you shouldn't be aping in at resistance levels hoping it's going to go higher. But the benchmark is 100K. I know. But the thing you don't want to mess up realistically is your risk management, because what if it doesn't do it? What if this is a rejection, we're going to go low? What if we're going to go and do the total opposite, and we're going to look at certain situations where we could be looking at, like, obviously this fib structure here, where we do reject. This is basically 786 if you're going to put it on there. And we're going to go down into these levels and revisit some of these actual levels of structure from the past. That is where I think people are going to get scared and will puke at it. Now, this data is probably a little bit out of date, but we are still technically in a bit of a shit structure point. Really, let's be honest here, we are. And with Bitcoin's long consolidation, it does open up for a potential move to the upside, realistically. And I tweeted about this yesterday. If you invert the Bitcoin chart, it looks really good for a break below, which would indicate we're going to zero if you're looking at that in that situation. It looks like a proper flag. And we've seen structure points like this before where the market melts and then we pop up and then boom. Obviously it's inverted. So when we look at it from that point of view, if you're looking from this structure point here to the low, we are hitting these levels here of real significant interest but struggling. What if we are going to go down to 83,000, 95,000, or down to these levels? Again, when I talk about it, let's put it back into parity. You can kind of see what's happening here, and these could well be the cycle lows, and we could be on our way up now towards these extension levels, which I know is mental. But again, as I say, 56% would put us right in this level. For some people, though, that's nowhere near enough. But that is only Q4. Q1 of the last couple of months in terms of bull markets have been incredibly bullish too. So let's not get too excited. But ultimately, What you got to look at realistically is the importance of previous markets. And obviously you can see here some big, massive, bloody returns, which could, quote unquote, compound. And that could be fun. Anyways, other bits and pieces to look at. It kind of is obvious. Altcoins are doing very well, as I've alluded to right at the start of this kind of point. Now, what we do have to do is consider potential altcoin positions around this point. What if this is the top? 58.6 could be the top and altcoins liquidity starts returning. Well, maybe, but it might not be. As I've alluded to yesterday in my runes video, we might see more and more Bitcoin ecosystem plays happening, creating a bigger strength in the Bitcoin ecosystem. As I've alluded to, with 0.04% of the ecosystem of Bitcoin is only meme coins. If that goes to 1 or 2%, that's going to create a big shift in value, and that could mean that Bitcoin dominates a bit more. That could be very, very fun. However, as I've said, Solana shooting up. Ethereum seems to have got its composure a little bit at this level, but could, well, do better. Others.d is trying to go up, which is great to see. This could be continuing going higher. Hopefully, fingers crossed it does, and therefore other altcoins get a bit of sunlight. But realistically though, where are we in terms of the total market cap? Well, we're kind of here. This is a hell of a level to kind of get back over again. Fingers crossed we do. And we could be going back up north. So things are looking pretty good. But as I say though, it's still very early. We are not out of that dicey zone yet. We need to look at the bearish scenario as well, which could well be playing into a lot of people's hands. And I'm just hoping, right? And let's just think out loud here that the market makers are not going to rug everyone, because it would be very, very cruel if you're thinking everyone's really bullish on Q4. Everything's looking good at certain levels. We're starting to see nice structure points. Things are starting to change and evolve. And imagine if they just went, nope, that would be pretty damn cruel. So we need to be mindful of that. So I kind of want to say don't get too excited, but we need to kind of remember the trend, and the friend of our trend is there, and especially for Bitcoin dominance, right? This is looking interesting, right? When we look at altcoins, and we're looking at all these altcoins all in the green right now, but some altcoins on the higher time frames have really took off, have like properly popped off. And you've got to look at the fact that some of them are trying to break out of structure levels, which is obviously injective. I just showed you Phantom before. Chainlink is trying to break out of certain levels and certain regions around these points and could be going higher. This is on the weekly time frame, by the way, so we've still got a bit to go. But the reality is here we are trying, and that is good to see. And the volume is increasing slowly. People are starting to get more and more interested. People are starting to return to these videos and subscribe to channels and stuff like that. That's good to see. But we've got a long way to go yet. So yes, we are early. Some altcoins you could still buy today and be very, very happy with your position. The likes of Bitcoin though, realistically, you should have been buying these little low points. Let's be honest here. But the thoughts are simple. If we replicate anywhere near the past in terms of Q4, we could be looking at $100,000 by Christmas. That's it. That's the idea.